Going to go to space. Let's go there right now. My guest is a thoroughly decent gentleman. Jim Burr is an astronomer and an inventor. Jim, welcome to It Is Written Live.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank
really
you.
Glad you're here. Now, astronomer, inventor. You've built telescopes, but you've invented telescopes as well. And as in fact, we have a telescope here. Tell me what this one's for.
This is dedicated to the sun.
You can look at the sun with this.
Yes.
Doesn't burn your retinas.
And don't look at the sun unless you've got a good telescope, especially designed.
Yeah.
Because you'll go blind.
Did you build this?
No, I didn't build that one.
Okay. But you build telescopes.
I built telescopes.
Okay, this one you can look at the sun. The telescopes that you like to build, what do people look at through those?
Well, they look at, in fact, we have a picture coming up of my first telescope. I spent 8 years designing this telescope.
Oh, yeah.
And we could build one a week. My crew could build one a week. And if you ordered in the 1990s, you'd have to wait 10 weeks. We were 10 weeks behind building.
So these were a big deal. They were popular.
They're very big telescopes.
Now I don't want to overstate this, but you invented, if I'm not mistaken, the binocular telescope.
Yeah,
is that correct?
That's it. That's correct. We did the little one on the right is a 6-inch. So you get a 6-inch eyeball, a 6-inch, and the next one's a 10-inch, and the big one is a 16-inch.
So before you came along, this had not been invented before.
That's right.
Why is that?
It's impossible to do. You can't build a telescope and put two telescopes that are going to see a pin on the moon and get them together in your eye. And what I did was it took 6 motors to do this job.
Really?
And I put a bearing on one with a little motor, move it up and down. The other one go left and right.
Hang on a minute. Should you be telling me this? Because other people will start doing it too.
That's okay.
Really? That's okay?
But you look at the moon, but you got a moon here and a moon here. But what you go is,
you got to put them together.
Yeah, like that. And they're there with switches.
Really?
You got interocular spacing. So we had 2 motors to space the eyes, 2 for focus, and 2 for aiming. And it worked perfect. But it's very, very difficult to do.
How fantastic is that? How fantastic is that? So you've been gazing into the sky for decades now.
Yeah, right. 50 years.
Why do I mean, I get it. I love to look into the sky. And we have a fellow on the staff here who takes magnificent pictures of planets and whatnot. So I get it. But what drew you?
Well, as a child, it got implanted with a guy who came to camp meeting, Philip Knox, and did a show, and he was jumping up. I mean, he was an evangelist. He was really excited. And he showed these beautiful pictures, and I was a little kid, and that was the seed that got me interested.
And you were smitten then.
Yeah.
And so some few years later, you're still talking about space, but one of the things I find fascinating about your approach is that you're not just talking about the space itself, but you love to talk about the God of space, the one who made all that.
That's right. Well, I'm reading astronomy and I'm reading the Bible, and I'm going, wow. God said to Job, can you guide Arcturus, a runaway star?
Yep.
And we know that Arcturus, traveling through our galaxy like 400,000 miles an hour, may leave the galaxy. And it says, can you guide Arcturus with its suns? That's a question God answered Job. If you Google Arcturian stream, you'll discover that Arcturus is traveling with 52 other stars through our galaxy, has not yet collided. Implication is God is guiding Arcturus.
Yeah.
A scientific, accurate, statement. And in there is 4, and that Job 38 is, can you guide Arcturus? Can you bind the Pleiades? Can you loosen the belts of Orion or bring forth the constellations of Messerach?
Interesting, isn't it, that Job speaks about space, like really speaks about space, and not just obscure stuff. It was me writing, I'd have said, what about the moon? But he goes deep into space.
But guess what? The Pleiades, can you bind the Pleiades? And the Pleiades are bound together like a flock of birds. They're moving together to 90,000 miles an hour towards Orion. The Pleiades bound together. Can you bind the Pleiades? And I saw that and I started reading. I go, man, do you know where they're going to be next year? Figure that out. Then I kept studying. I discovered they're so far away. It takes 33,000 years for the Pleiades to move across the moon. They're so far away. Even at 90,000 miles an hour, it takes 33,000 years for them to move.
Ordinarily, I'm quick with a response, but I heard that and I just, what do you say? I think what you say is that God is great.
What a God.
You know, one place we see the greatness of God, now we're leaving space for just a minute, so your interest in science is broad. DNA. Talk about DNA for a minute. And one of the reasons I want you to do this is people like me, lay people, when it comes to science, will talk with a scientist and not even know where to start. However, we don't need to be buffaloed by scientists, and careful, I'm not trying to lump all science in one basket. As I mentioned before in my opening remarks, science is a continuum. But you could say, I believe creation, and someone with a degree or with knowledge and big terms could buffalo you. But let's bring it right down. Instead of the macro, let's go to the micro. What does DNA tell us?
Okay, let me say, I'm a generalist, okay? There are people out there 1,000 times smarter than I am, and they don't think I got any business talking about this. They are so deep in it, they can't give you the big picture.
Yeah, give us the big picture.
So I'm on the plane. I'm on an airplane coming out of SeaTac, Seattle, to Denver, 3 hours. And I got my computer out, and the guy next to me goes, what's your seminar on? And well, I talked about the stars, and I took him through the Bible in about 12 different verses, scientifically accurate stuff. He goes like, how do you put the Bible with astronomy? And I said, believe in God? And he goes like, oh, he's a science teacher, okay? So after we got through the stars, I pulled out this pen out of my briefcase, and I said, do you realize, I'm going to talk to him about DNA. Do you realize when you were conceived, you could sit on the head of that pin? And do you realize, and I show them letter codes, okay, we've got pictures coming up here, I think there as you go, there's the page full of letter codes, these, ACTs and Gs. And this little cell has to copy that. It has 6 billion letter codes, 3 billion base pairs. It has to copy that because you're going to split it into two cells in 24 hours.
Now, as the picture says, it says 13 years to sequence, and that's when they sequenced the genome, right?
It took them 13 years, 5,000 supercomputers, thousands of scientists, 13 years to sequence it. But this little cell can copy that in 24 hours.
Yeah, see, that's remarkable.
At a computer, it would be 50 years. If you were going to type out the information in one cell, it would take you a lifetime.
Really?
To type it out.
One cell.
One cell.
And the body is made up of a gazillion cells.
Yeah, that's right.
And
that's
yet
right.
there are some who want us to believe that this all happened as a result of evolution. I don't think so. And I don't want to win the argument. I don't think too many people are helped by winning the argument. But what I would want to do in this is to point people to the Creator. There is a Creator. God made this.
So if you're sitting at a keyboard for 50 years, would you be making mistakes?
Oh, man, I'd make plenty.
And do you know, your cell makes mistakes too. It can make as many as 1 million mistakes every day that it copies. Every 24 hours, it can make up to 1 million mistakes.
That doesn't sound good.
Well, because we live in a polluted world, because of free radicals, because of ultraviolet, because of carcinogenic stuff, because we didn't get enough water, enough exercise, enough sleep. You see, it makes those mistakes. But, the good news is, there is 50 genes that will repair your DNA. But there's a spell checker. And so if you look at, let's say you typed it out. There's the 50 genes at the bottom part. The top is a damaging agent.
Yes.
The bottom part is a repair agent. But if you were to type this out so you could read it, 12 font, it would be taller than the Empire State Building. You would have 424-foot pages of DNA typed out, taller than Empire State Building. Empire State's 300 feet. This is 424.
So that's the information contained in one cell.
In one cell.
Now, let me ask you this. Does anybody deny that?
I don't guess so.
I mean, does this local science teacher say there isn't that much information? So it's known fact, huh? That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
he teaches this stuff, and I never thought about what I was telling him. And the fact is that not only is that going to type that out, but you've got a spell checker like your computer that goes through that stack and can find the mistakes, and we've got 24 hours to do it. Let's give it 10 hours to copy that. Give the spell checker 10 hours to go through and find a mistake, and give the genes, those 50 genes, give them 10 hours to repair it. It's unbelievable what has to happen in 24 hours.
That's unbelievable, particularly when, that's remarkable.
And we get the mistakes in copying it there. But if you were to put it another way, if you were to type out that information, again, 12 fonts so you could read it, it would be the longest word in the world. It would reach to Japan. You'd have a word that's
if you put it all together, jammed all the letters together.
End to end, 12 font. So you could read it.
That much information to make one word that stretches 7,000 miles.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And think about this. There's instructions there to make the organs in your body, and your heart's got to find out where are the instructions for me and ignore the instructions for the others.
That's right. I never thought of that.
And so you start on this 7,000-mile word, and boom, God says, I'm right here. There's your fingerprint. And everybody on earth's going to get a different fingerprint.
Wow.
It is just so amazing. And
We are fearfully and wonderfully made, David wrote in Psalm 139. Fearfully and wonderfully made.
You see, there's a message on screen in Morse code.
Uh-huh.
I got a $100 bill if you can read that message.
No, from here it looks maybe like it's Arabic or something. And knowing that it's Morse code doesn't help me, Jim. Not a chance.
Nobody can do that. Now, I have to change this every week because you could watch last week's
that's
program
right.
and you know the answer.
Someone will catch on.
Nobody wrote. You see, that code, that message is worthless unless you know the code.
Yeah.
It takes a mind to create a code. You can make your own code. A is going to be this, B is going to be this. You see, it takes a mind. That message, your DNA is worthless unless God has given your body the ability to read the code, you see. It takes a mind to create that. And what's interesting now, so picture this. Your DNA is 7,000 miles long. It's got to be read. Okay, you got a little helicase. You have a little turbine that splits the DNA and copies it.
Mm-hmm.
If this turns, like if you've seen a Vitamix, you know how fast a Vitamix
I got a
goes?
Vitamix. It's a wonderful machine, and it goes like crazy.
It goes like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a little turbine. It doesn't go quite that fast, but it goes about 10,000 revolutions a minute to divide the DNA and copy the DNA.
Something in your cell
in every cell
is spinning at 10,000
called the helicase.
10,000 RPMs.
It's got to divide it and copy it. And then it has to be folded back together once it's copied. Now, let me back up a little bit. In fact, because, let me go back to the previous picture here, because that stack of books, it is like, if you were going to copy this, okay, with even at 10,000 revolutions a minute, it would take you 2 months to get another cell. If you're going to copy this stack of books or this 7,000,
Take you 2 months.
It would take you 2 months. Okay, you would be in your mother's womb for 45 years.
Yes, she wouldn't have enjoyed that.
But
nor would I.
What happens is, as if this stack of books is copied, like every chapter is copied simultaneously, because you couldn't copy that in 8 hours. That 6 billion letter codes has to be copied, and then it's got to be folded back together, because when you're all done, your DNA is this long.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so they're nanometers apart. The words are very tight, but we put it in 12 fonts so we could read it to get the concept here, you see. And so if it has to be folded back together, the DNA has got to be folded, and there's chaperones that watch the folding. If it's not folded correct, there's diseases you get if it's not folded. The chaperones can correct for this.
Only God.
And they tell me you can send it to jail if there's a mistake to get it fixed. The chaperones do this. It's folded. What a God.
Only God.
What a God.
Only God could do that. Okay, while we're down looking at the little stuff, I know that from time to time you'll talk about amoeba and speak about amoeba. So
okay.
What can we learn?
Okay. So evolution supposedly happened with mistakes. In copying all this, good mistakes, you're occasionally going to get most of them are bad mistakes. Once in a while, you might get a good mistake.
Sure.
And so we've got an amoeba, and they, or some warm little, some little creature started life supposedly in some warm little pond with lightning and all this.
Right, some single cell
thing. Let's say it was an amoeba.
Yeah.
And so my amoeba is an Einstein amoeba. He's the smartest amoeba. Now my wife doesn't like me to think this is an analogy holds up, but this little amoeba is bored to death. He's sitting in this pond. He can't see. He can't swim. But he's smart. He's the amoeba. So he goes to his computer and he Googles eyeballs.
Yes, because he doesn't have any.
He doesn't have any, but he wants to see, and he discovers there's a mutation, RPE 065. If you have that mutation, you're born legally blind. A friend of mine has that, okay? So he goes, hey, I can evolve eyeballs, and what I need is 6,200,000 good mutations. If I could get the right 6,200,000 good mutations, I could get eyeballs and I could evolve. But with what I've told you, what's going to happen? We've got to copy it. We got to spell check it. We got to fix it.
Yeah, that's wild.
What's going to happen? The spell checker goes, you're an amoeba. I got an army. I got 50 genes that are going to fix your evolution. You cannot evolve. Because of the spell checker. The spell checker looks through here and he goes, wait a minute. Did God just do that so evolution couldn't happen? You would never make it out of the womb if it wasn't for that spell checker. And that 50 genes are there to fix it.
And that's what some people don't realize. They'll say, well, dolphins swam and one day crawled up on the beach and grew legs. Evolution isn't a conscious process. It's not like something said, "I need wings, so let's grow wings." It was never that, and no evolutionist even teaches that that's the thing. It's all accidental and mutatory. If maybe I created a word there, mutated a word. It's all the result of mutation.
Yeah.
And that's important to realize that the jellyfish never did say, "I want to be big and strong like a horse," and so it grew legs and walked on land. That's not even how evolutionists position evolution.
Yeah. It's just so amazing to think that this spell checker ends evolution. There's a professor, New York Society Science. Anyway, he said the moment we understood DNA and RNA, it should immediately ended the conversation on evolution.
It did,
the
right.
moment that we.
Because what you were saying is that there's a process built into the DNA itself that when something mutates, it fixes the mutation.
Yes,
Yeah.
the genes are there to fix it.
Now, some mutations might still slip through.
Well, yes, 1 in a billion get through.
Have
Okay,
mercy.
so if you have, they say like 100,000 to 1,000,000 mistakes. It depends on how, what you did to your body.
Yeah, sure.
That you get more mutations, but it still has the ability, only 1 in a billion. That means every replication, you could have 3
Yep.
mutations.
And if that little fella needed 6,200,000 mutations to develop eyeballs, and only one in a billion was going to get through, he would need 6,200,000 billion mutations and everything to bounce in the right direction.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not
That's
happening.
right. That's right.
It's not happening.
right.
Let me tell you, when it comes to evolution, it's not happening. I'm not trying to pick a fight with you, but I am trying to tell you the Bible says, in the beginning, God created a loving God, not an accident. A God who was prepared before the fact to die for your sins. You're intentional, not a mistake. We didn't evolve. Thank the Lord. Let's go back out to the stars again. Take us back out into space, Jim.
Well, the Hubble telescope looked through a tiny little speck of the sky. People think that telescopes get
Yep.
big pictures.
Yep.
It looks at the small, like a grain of sand. It covers at arm's length, kind of. It's
that
looking
so?
at, or like looking through a little straw.
Okay, so let me get this straight. What you're saying is what the Hubble telescope sees is what I would see if I looked at the sky through
Yeah.
a straw.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so they rely on lots of pictures and put them together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And magnifies what it sees through there. It zooms in.
Okay.
And if you were going to take a whole picture of the whole sky through a straw, it would be 27 million times more. In other words, what you're seeing when we play this zoom, there's 27 million times more out there than what you can see. The original photograph they did for 84 hours, and they got 20,000 galaxies. It's just a still picture, not a video.
Okay.
Still picture. They got 20,000 through a straw, and there would be 27 million times more than that. And so the Hubble zooms in as far as it can go, and galaxies are just flying by on the screen. Okay, and it zooms in, and they put in, as far as it can zoom, they put a new level of magnification, and they go to ultraviolet. It zooms in 4 times, and it takes 2 minutes for them to look. Galaxies are flying by. And when I see that, I think about Jesus, who traveled from star to star. He supplied all I have needed, thy hand hath supplied it. He supplied the need, the order for every order of being in the universe.
Yes.
And he visited them all because he's responsible. He created them all. So when you see these, I need about 5 things to think about. First thing is the fact that Jesus visited them all. So they're going by, you see these galaxies, each. If you're going to visit just one, I like to freeze one frame on the screen. If you freeze one,
Have you got a picture there?
I
advanced that.
I
You've
don't
been
think the
advancing
zoom
pictures, so-
is. We do have a picture of a
There you
galaxy.
go. All right, that's good.
Yeah, if you're going to visit the stars and spend 6 days on every star system.
6 days on each star in a galaxy.
Star system with the planets. It would take you 14 billion years to cover what's on the
Okay,
screen.
that's just star systems within one galaxy.
But yes, a star and planets if they're.
Okay, so if you were to go to every star system in a
Yeah.
single galaxy and spend 6 days there, it'd take you 14 billion.
Yeah. You wouldn't visit a star because it's too hot, but the planets you'd visit around
gotcha.
the system. That's why I say star system. It would take you 14 billion years.
But there are how many galaxies on it? 200 billion?
Well, 200 billion, yes. It's interesting. Isaac Asimov, the famous science fiction writer, said,
Sure.
I do not believe in the afterlife, therefore I do not worry about the tortures of hell, or even worse, the boredom of heaven.
The boredom of heaven. Asimov said that.
Asimov said that.
Matt, you know what, though? He probably got that from sitting through boring church services where the Bible wasn't open, and some Orthodox or Anglican or Episcopalian dressed in a robe droned on and made it boring.
Sitting on a cloud strumming a harp.
This is the truth, though. Some preachers, I was going to say some of us preachers, some of us preachers have made the afterlife sound so unattractive. People think, what's the point? Just suck whatever you can out of the...
So the point is, you're not going to get bored in heaven.
No way. No way.
Okay. And so when you see these galaxies fly by, think about the fact that that you're going to get to visit them. We'll follow the Bible says we'll follow the Lamb wherever he goes.
Yes.
I think we're going to get to visit them. So it's about 5 things. Jesus traveled. It's going to take you 14 billion to visit one galaxy. And the fact that the angels know what God has out there.
Yes. The Bible says, and this is taken out of context a little bit, admittedly, eye has not seen nor ear heard, nor has it entered the hearts of us, the things that God has prepared for them that love him.
That's right.
So there's some amazing things.
And so the angels know that you've got all of this, and yet you're going to go down there and you're going to die for this little planet. I want to show you a picture of the Earth from Saturn,
let's see that.
1 billion miles away. There's a little speck there in the bottom. That's the Earth from 1 billion miles away.
Is that an actual photo, or did someone make that?
Yeah, that's the Cassini spacecraft taking the picture. The rings of Saturn. Rings of Saturn.
And that's the Earth. And the Earth is a little dot in some distant corner of one average-sized galaxy.
Yes.
There are 200 billion galaxies, and yet Jesus...
got all this, and the angels are going like... And you're going to go down there and die for that when you've got all of this?
Yeah.
But so great was the Father's love.
Yes.
He permitted him to come down and die to rescue us.
Remarkable. And that's the story you learn by looking into the stars, looking into the sky. A great God made this, and a God great enough to make this came to this planet, allowed his son, that is, to come to this planet and die to redeem we who do not deserve it, even in the slightest. And frankly, if God didn't redeem us, we'd never be any the wiser. We would never know. But that's the love of God. I've got to ask you this question because we've got a couple of minutes. Question. So the Hubble telescope started sending pictures back of, or producing pictures
30 years ago,
amazing thing. Amazing. And then the
James
Webb, I want to call him George Webb.
Yeah.
The James Webb telescope, these incredible pictures. So who got more excited? Atheists, evolutionists, who may or may not be the same thing, or creationists, who said, oh, we've got this great material now, this makes our case. Who got the most excited?
Well, they got excited because they were seeing further than ever before. The evolutionists did.
That's good. I don't mind them seeing as far as they want. That's great.
But there's some problems. They go like, how are these galaxies so perfectly formed if they're the oldest ones? And they can't explain that. And I mean, I can show you something on the web that said NASA admits defeat over the Big Bang because of what the James Webb Telescope said. Now, we have to cut them a little slack because they're looking for fantastic, eye-catchy statements that'll get you to read. You know, so they'll overstate the thing.
Might be some sensationalism there.
We got to cut them a little slack for that. But yes, Machio Kaku, who's quite a famous guy, says he's in tears. They lied to us. He says they lied to us. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson says that we're befuddled by the data. We got to go back to the drawing board. We got to rewrite the books. We got to rewrite the school books and so forth. deGrasse is very reserved. He's very careful. But Machio Kaku made these wild statements. We were lied to.
I saw a little video of an evolutionist talking to a Christian pundit, and he was saying, oh, you're relying on the same old tired arguments. Haven't you thought about dwarf stars and collapsing stars and blah-de-blah? And sure, I'm pretty certain that if you get me in a discussion about dwarf stars, I'm going to be groping in the darkness. However, I don't think the average Christian believer should be too worried about. I mean, let's study them. I'm not against that. What I'm saying is, if I can't answer the question about dwarf stars, what I can do is answer the story about DNA. What I can do is answer the story about the cell. You can look out there at a dwarf star, whatever that is, or a black hole, and my conversations with you indicate that the jury's out on black holes. So not all scientists agree, and not all of this is stated fact. But what's a fact is that if you look little at a human cell, you can't come away from that with any integrity saying, well, that just happened on its own, the result of random mutation.
Right.
Not possible, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely impossible.
Not possible.
It's just amazing. And, you know, we do have, there's stuff change, there's change going on out there. We see novas and we see supernovas.
Yep.
And, you know, when they go that way, there's always a remaining star, a pulsar, a neutron, some sort of dense star remaining. But the Bible says in Psalm 102 that of old he laid the foundations of the earth, and the heavens are the works of his hands. They will perish. The Bible says they will perish.
They will perish.
All
Look
of
at
them
that.
shall wax old as a garment. As a vesture shalt thou change them. The King James, this is a vesture. And some of them, like Eta Carini, every 5.2 years it sends out a blast. So it's like they cast off an outer shell.
That's interesting.
And so Romans 8:22, the whole creation is groaning. Is that part of the curse? We don't know. We don't know what, you know, how far the curse has gone.
Okay, question. Creation, the cosmos speaks of God. So someone says, well, where do I get started? How do I learn more about this in a way that will grow my faith in God? What do you recommend?
Well, we got a ton of programs out there.
Yes.
I've done
A lot of programs.
200
So
programs.
search
if
Jim
you
Burr
go to
programs.
Jim Burr,
Yes.
go to Jim Burr Heavens Declare, you will find a ton of programs on astronomy and the Bible, creation, evolution.
Jim Burr Heavens Declare.
On YouTube, yes.
Yep. Oh, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to encourage you to do. Go to YouTube. And the reason I'm suggesting this, if you want to learn more about science in a way that will grow your faith, you'll look at the heavens perhaps in ways you've never done before. Jim Burr, Heavens Declare. Fantastic, YouTube. The heavens declare the glory of God, the firmament showeth his handiwork. Hey, you must love this. Do you ever get tired of talking about these things?
My wife's trying to slow me down.
Is she
And
succeeding?
Well, I'm on my 88th trip around the sun right now.
No way, is that right?
88, and she's trying to slow me down. I said, hey, if they call, I can't do this forever. If they call, John Bradshaw called, I'm going.
Amen.
If they call,
I like
I'm going.
that. Yeah, I like that. Well, we need to call you a whole lot before she finally gets through to you and slows you down. Oh, what a thrill to speak with you, Jim. You've had a remarkable career in sharing Christ. You're an inventor. You have a background in electronics. You're an astronomer. You've told the world about the one who made the world. Thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Really appreciate it.